Hello everybody, welcome to my channel Ashley's Treasure. Today we're gonna do some more work on the Peter Rabbit journal. Here I wanted to add some pink like to dress the edges. I was deciding which one, and the other ones were too dark, so the one on the left is one I'm going to be using, which is the sponge sugar. And yeah, it was just, I didn't like it plain white because that's the scrapbook paper, and the back of it was all white and it just did not look right, and I didn't really want to age it and make it look distressed with like antique linen, so I thought about doing pink, and I like that a lot more. At first I was using a new brush that I haven't used, and it was hard because it's such a light pink. It was hard doing it with the brush, but so that's why I used my dauber. And then I kept using the brush to like blend it out a little bit. Granted, this is the Stress ink. I don't have the oxide of it, so it doesn't blend as well as the oxide does. And but it worked. But yeah, it did everything that I wanted it to do. In the center part, I still wanted to add the pink there on that side as well. And so that's why I used a scrap piece of the book page, and so I wouldn't get onto the other page. And it ended up not really mattering anyways because you couldn't see it on the other page because I actually have washi tape, and because of the texture of the washi tape, the ink was easy to just like wipe off, and so you can't see, there's none of the pink ink on that page, so it all ended up working out well. It was hard to use the dabber in that corner because of the that's where the signature is, how they're sewn in, so I had to use the brush on that last side of the page, and it ended up working out. I just kept on having to add more and more and more because of being such a light color, but it worked out after all. Like, it looked a lot better than just being plain white, although the little tag that I got there, because of being like another pink, I probably should have used like a light blue or something so it would have matched Peter Rabbit's jacket, but I didn't think of that till afterwards, but it's all good. I like it. Next, I'm going to do a little cluster on the bottom left of this page because there was like nothing going on these two pages, so it just needed something. So I got some scraps, and I found the picture here that I'm going to use. What was her name? Twinkle, Mrs. Twinkle, I think, or Twiggle, or gosh, I forgot what her name was. But I was going to use her on the bottom left in this napkin. I was going to use too because it had these dark leaves in it, and I wanted to use purple with her for some reason. It looked like she needed purple, so I liked these dark leaves that went with the purple flowers that I found, which is off of the pillowcase that I used, that's like a scrap piece of it that I used to do the I attached the signature onto and then glued that onto the book. And so that was a scrap piece of it. I was cutting off the part that was sewn on so I wouldn't have too much dimension, and just kind of tidying up, getting it cutting kind of close to the little bit of the flower, and then I was distressing, just pulling extra pieces off so it didn't look freshly cut, so it kind of like all go together. But I was planning on having that on the top left corner, and then this was a page from that garden encyclopedia, and I end up cutting off like words and numbers and stuff off of it, and that was like a scrap piece of it, and I kind of like the way that looked for some reason. So I wanted a piece of that, and then I got this paper doily. I'm gonna use a little bit of that like on the left side of the cluster, and the words from the book on the bottom right. And I was liking where that was going, and so I started cutting out some of the, I was debating about this part, but I ended up not using it. It was I was trying out a new punch that I got, which I'll have to show you in one of the hauls. But anyways, I cut off the leaves that I wanted. As you can see, I used, normally I use my embossing folder, but it was all the way on the other side, so I just used the blending brush that I got and pressed onto the napkin, and it helps separate it so you don't have to do the whole tape trick or whatever. But yeah, you just press it a couple times and it helps separate the layers of the napkin. That's another trick if you didn't know. But yeah, I'm just kind of tearing it by hand. I forgot to grab some water and a paintbrush to do it that way, but it was fine. Like, I actually end up liking it more just tearing it by hand to get, because I wanted it pretty close to, you know, get as much of the white off as possible, because it was, the background's pretty white. And then the paper that I'm putting on is coffee dyed, so you could, or it's part coffee dyed, and like I think there was some like distress ink that I used in that paper too. But yeah, so I want to get as much as that white off as possible because you could see the difference. And so I was going to do that on the top left, and I liked where that was going, but it seemed like it needed more. So I ended up cutting off more leaves. Oh, and this is when I needed a drink. And so that's when I finally went and got the water, and I found a brush and did it that way this time. And I didn't want to get my table wet, so I got just some packaging to do it on top of. And I got a little bit too wet at first on the bottom because I didn't want to tear that leaf off because I wanted to use that leaf. But I kept getting a little bit more wet, tearing little pieces off, trying to get as much of the white off as possible. But I still end up like just tearing it by hand dry. I think I end up going better for what I was going for because I wanted to have it so close and I wanted it just right. So it was kind of easier just tearing it dry than it was wet. So I kept peeling little extra pieces off. Sorry, I was a little off camera right here. But yeah, I had to do a voiceover on this because my baby girl was sleeping and I didn't want to wake her up. So if I was talking, she would wake up and not sleep, and I wouldn't be able to do anything. So I hope you don't mind me doing a voiceover. I prefer doing it in person, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. Here again, you can see how I was able to separate the napkin by using the brush by just, you know, something hard and kind of flat and putting pressure on it. It helps separate it. And here I'm just kind of doing it by hand instead of getting it wet, end up being better. This is when I needed more purple, so this is where I cut some of the purple flowers off of that napkin, and I really liked that. And so I'm going to use it in between the leaves right there, and then I needed some more, so I'm going to do it on the, I found another little bundle of those purple flowers and going to do that on the right side of the right bundle of leaves. And I really like how this is going to turn out. But again, I'm just, you know, tearing as much of the white off as I can without tearing off the purple flower off the napkin. And I kept waiting because they're different, they shape different, so I want to make sure it's, you know, matched right between the leaves. So I switched them around and I didn't like how that looked, so I ended up switching them back, and I like that a lot better. It just fit better in between, lined up better in between the leaves and everything. So I like where this is going. So I'm going to start getting my glue stick out, and that's how I'm going to adhere the napkins, pieces of the napkins that I just cut out. And this is my favorite way of gluing down napkins. We're doing like decoupage and stuff. I don't really like using Mod Podge because it leaves that shiny glossy. Even if you use matte Mod Podge, it still leaves that glossy look. So, and plus I like the texture of the napkin, so I don't like doing a coat over on top. So that's why I liked using the glue stick. It sticks really well, and it still leaves the texture on the top, and it doesn't leave that glossy look. You know, you don't see the glue at all. So this is my favorite way of adhering napkins. So I did the first leaf and flower, and I wanted to start making sure that everything is lining up just right. And so I thought I should put the little cluster together, but I wanted to distress them first. So I'm going to be using the antique linen. I did it on all the, even the fabric as well. So I used it on all of it besides the napkins. And I liked where this was going, so I used my art glitter glue and glued her onto the fabric, the little purple flower fabric from the pillowcase, lining up just right. And then the torn paper doily with the art glitter glue as well. And just kind of wiggling around, positioning it just the way I want it, trying to make it look just right. Toward a little extra piece that was hanging off from the bottom. Making sure it's all glued where I want it to be. Trying to position everything, and then I'm going to add that little piece of the page from the garden encyclopedia. I ended up using quite a bit of that throughout this journal. I forgot to put the needle back in my glue bottle, so I just used that extra glue that was already on there and smeared it onto there. And hard to believe, I didn't realize till I was gluing it on that it actually says home on the top, which I thought that was like perfect for her, you know, because she was like, has that mommy home feel, you know, and so I liked how it said home on there, and I wanted to make sure I didn't cover that so they could read that off of there, that little cluster. And so now I like where everything's going. I'm doing the flower first to make sure it's lined up because it's going to be on the bottom anyways. And then the leaf is going to be on top of the flowers. And there's that tiny pink part on the flower, which I could have torn off, but I wanted to make sure that it didn't show. So I wanted to make sure that the leaf was covering that. Doing it with glue stick is a little sticky because, you know, you get it on your fingers, but I don't know, it's not bad. It's like the easiest way for me. It just works. Everyone has their own ways. And then I noticed I missed a little spot right there, so I just get the glue stick out again, make sure it's all stuck well. And it's like blending in with the paper because of the torn part of the napkin. And I really like where this is going. And then I was debating there was something missing on the bottom left, so this is where I decided to look for more leaves to put on the bottom, and I did find some more, a small section, because I just needed a little bit more of those same colored leaves. And again, separated it and just tearing off the extra white part that I don't need. And that's what I needed. Like, that looked a lot better. So going to get the glue stick out and adhere it the same way as I did with the rest of the napkins. And now I think it's time to finally glue it all together. And this time I'm going to use the art glitter glue, and I still had some blobs on my desk, so I just used that up so it wouldn't go to waste. And I still end up needing more anyways, but yeah, I used art glitter glue all over the back. And then trying to line it up, and I wasn't really paying attention to the right side. I was paying attention more to the left side, and I ended up doing a little crooked. Like, you could tell from the part that says home, you know, the part from the textbook, the garden encyclopedia, like I ended up doing it kind of crooked, which I didn't realize at first. Right there I noticed it, and I was trying to level it out, but it was glued on already. It wasn't going anywhere. But yeah, it's all right. It's homemade. I like it. And there it is. It looks really cute. Next, this is a different day, but I had an idea. I wanted to do another tag for a pocket, and I kind of have it planned out how I'm going to do it. I had this scrap piece. This is from another tag that I did, and I wanted that on the bottom right to go with on the top left, I got a little blue label where I'm going to glue Peter's name on. And so since there's like straight lines in that top left corner, like I needed some like on the bottom right. So I thought that'd be perfect. I was thinking about adding some lace underneath it to get a little bit extra texture, and I liked where that was going. Here I kind of zoomed in so you could see better. So I like where this is going. This is one of the Tim Holtz cards. I can't remember how big they are. It was an odd size, but I liked where this was going. I really liked the colors on this and the flowers on here and how it has like printing on here. I really liked this tag. I thought it was perfect for what I was going for. I just used some glue stick to adhere the bottom layer of the lace, and I wasn't worried because it stuck enough, but I knew that I was going to use like art glitter glue, layer the other things on top of it, so I knew it was going to stick. Like this little scrap, I used my die cutting machine with that because of being so fine. I used the art glitter glue on. Here I'm going to get the antique linen out and distress everything so it all fits together. So I like hurry up and do the card, and I was able to pull the lace back a little bit because again, I didn't use my art glitter glue, I used a glue stick. So I was still able to get back without getting the ink onto the lace. But that looks a lot better being distressed for sure. But I didn't do the top because I knew it's not going to be that tall. I'm going to be cutting the extra part off, but I didn't know how tall it was going to be until I glue everything together because I didn't want it to be too short or too tall and keep, slowly nipping off extra pieces. So, yeah, I'm leaving that open for at the end. And then here I'm just going to keep distressing everything with the antique linen. I thought about using vintage photo because on this paper, it kind of has that waxy feel. It's not matte. It's another one of Tim Holtz. And I mentioned this before, and I don't like how it has that waxy feel, but it is easy to remove the ink. But the antique linen like hardly works on that. You can hardly see it. So that's why I thought about using vintage photo, and it was too dark. So I went back into my inks and I found the tea dye. I got the oxide and that looked a lot better. So I used that, and I realized there was something gooey on there. I don't know if I got glue on it, but it was sitting there for a day. I don't know if you can see that right there. I think my son might have dropped something on there because sometimes my son likes to play on my my chair. It's like an office chair kind of, and it like spins, so he likes playing on it sometimes. And so I think he might have spilled something on there, but luckily it was able to come off. But yeah, I just kept distressing the edges and that looked a lot better again instead of being so white. And it has a lot of details and I didn't want to take the time fussy cutting all that white off. But there's like that blob right there that was way too white. So that part I was able to get the antique linen out and give it a little bit of color so it wasn't so white. And I liked where this was going, so I was able to line everything up. Here is a close-up of all the things I distressed, so they all go together with the antique linen. And I'm going to be gluing. I was able to find Peter's name on one of the pages again, and I liked how the P was bigger than the rest. I really liked that. So I'm glued that on, making sure everything's lined up just right. I'm onto the label, and then the label I'm going to glue behind the photo. And then that's that little scrap piece I tried out with the new corner punch that I got, and I'm going to just use the glue stick to adhere it on the back of the label. And then put some glue on the top of the label to glue the picture from the original book. Next, I needed to glue the flowers on. I want to make sure it was just right because I don't want it going off the page because I don't want to cut off any of it. So I'm just positioning it just right. And I'm going to be using the art glitter glue on this because of how thick it is and to make sure it sticks well. And then I couldn't remember if I wanted the little oval label above, like on top or behind the little mushroom, which are both another one of Tim Holtz. Those are from the snippets of the field notes. I really love them so much. I actually got like 2 packs of them because I use them so much. But then I realized like it looked weird just having lace on the bottom because of how thick the lace was. Like it needed it on the top as well. And so I cut off some more, and then I didn't want the bottom piece to overlay, making too much dimension. And so I snipped a little bit off to make it the right length or the right height. So yeah, I really liked where this was going. So I just ended up using the art glitter glue this time because I already had it out, and lightly tapped it so I wouldn't get all over my hands, but stick well. And then again, checking where everything's at, and I like where it's going, so I'm gonna use the art glitter glue to make sure it sticks well, and then the art glitter glue will go onto the lace and also glue the lace onto the original paper, the tag, so it'll all stick together. And trying to press it down to make sure it all sticks well. And then I'm going to start adding the little mushrooms. I don't know why I like the mushrooms. I was looking for a label and I saw that the mushroom was in there and I liked it, so I thought why not use it, because the mom is making soup for Peter. And I saw, like, if you could see on the bottom left of the picture, there's like vegetables, so I thought why not add mushrooms? You can eat mushrooms too, so why not add it to the soup? And so yeah, that's why I decided to add the mushrooms, and I ended up doing it on top of the label. And then I had this tiny little scrap of lace that I wanted on the top right of the mushroom, kind of underneath it a little bit. That was like, I never throw away lace. Like I use every tiny little piece. That was from one of the other videos when I was doing a tag, and I also did the pocket, and that little piece was hanging off from the pocket that I had to nip off. Well, that was the little scrap piece. Now I'm cutting off all the excess of this lace, and don't worry, I won't throw it away. I'll end up using it eventually. And so I'm kind of eyeballing, trying to see, where I should cut it off. And I like where this is going, so I get my trimmer out and yeah, just cut off the extra piece, and I use that to make sure it's perfectly straight. And then the corners, I couldn't find my corner corner punch. So I just used that extra piece that I cut off and used that as like my template, and followed that, and just with the scissors, just curve it. And it was pretty easy because of having that helped a lot. So it'll match the other corners. And of course I got the antique linen out and finished distressing it. And I also distressed the back. There's a little bit of room to write on in the back, but not that much. So I was debating what I should do, if I should add something on there so there'd be more room to write or not. And so, yeah, I ended up going through my scraps, and I found this little bit of printer paper that I dyed, and I thought I'll have to use some of that and add in there so there's more room to write on. And of course I didn't want it straight cut, so I used the ruler to kind of give that torn look. And so I just kept on tearing some off, and here I accidentally got it crooked, so I had to cut more off to straighten it. But yeah, I just made sure that all 4 sides were semi straight, 90-degree angles. And yeah, I like that. And of course, I had to distress it just like I did everything else. So again, I used the distressed antique linen. And since the corners were curved, I kind of just tore off the corners to kind of give it a curved look to it. So it looked better than having, straight corners against curved corners. It just didn't look right. But since it was, had that torn look, if I did cut it with scissors, it wouldn't have that torn look like the rest of the page did. So I just kind of nipped it off with my fingers, and it gave it like more kind of like an organic, distressed look to it. And I like that. And that gave a lot more room now to journal on in the back of the tag. And I remembered not to use the art glitter glue on this paper, because if I use art glitter glue on this paper, you could definitely see it through. So I made sure that I used the glue stick really, really good on all 4 edges and not add any art glue on this paper, because I did not want that to show through. And then I used my squeegee and made sure it was all pressed well. And here's the end result. What do you think? I really like the way it turned out. Here's the front and the back. And then I was thinking about adding a little number there, but anyways. I hope you enjoyed this. If so, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll talk to you later.